In this episode, we sit down with Nader Amiri. Would you say the most important thing is the idea itself?
First, it starts from here. You need to have that level of conviction in your heart and your gut that says, you know what, this is worth enough for me to start exploring. Then there's enough material out there to go and say, okay, what are the basics that I need to do to validate it? The second was, who am I going to do this with? Having the right partners involved, having the right people involved to support in that start of the journey, but also complementary to what you can then achieve together.
So 3 things you've said. One is have an idea. Then you've said talk to your people that you believe can come along in that journey. 3, validate it. Talk to people who you think can benefit from your idea. Now that you have all of that done, where's the money going to come from?
I mean, money is important to get things started. And how much of that money do you need, right? I don't think you need a lot of money to start off with. You need to have enough and you need to be clear, what do I need to go from 0 to 1? And you need to be ready for challenges. Sometimes you can anticipate some, and there will be a lot that you cannot anticipate, right? That's the nature of the market. That's the nature of the world around us. So, in fact, that's a concept that I've been getting more and more familiar with. You need to be like the fire that when the wind blows, helps spread.
Welcome to Vision Voices Middle East, where we spotlight bold thinkers, unapologetic builders, and the stories that are reshaping the region's consumer and startup landscape. In this episode, we sit down with Nader Amiri, general partner at Homegrown Ventures and the founder behind Grocer. From pitching to partnering, Nader has experienced both sides of the funding table. What does it really look like to raise capital when you need it, and what shifts when you're the one deciding where that capital goes? We talk about the reality of startup funding in the region, the growing gaps between founders and investors, and whether the MENA venture scene is truly ready to take bold steps. This episode is packed with raw insights, founder truths, and strategic guidance for anyone building or backing the next big thing. Welcome to the show, Nader.
Thank you.
Let's start with your journey from multinational to founder and now funding the founders.
Yes.
Give us a quick snapshot.
So I started off my career in the FMCG world. I started off with Unilever, then I worked with Kraft Foods, and then Coca-Cola, mostly in the Middle East, managing the GCC Middle East region, working on commercial roles, working on some amazing brands that we all know today. Did trade marketing, brand management, innovation, strategy. Did a stint in Central Eastern Europe as well. And after about 12 years or so in the corporate world, I thought I always had that entrepreneurial itch, entrepreneurial bug. As the startup world started coming up, at least on the technology side, I said, okay, can I get involved? And doing advisory roles, investing as an angel investor in a couple, got me more and more into that world. And up until one day, then I said, you know what, it's time to do that, time to take the risk, jump in. And that's when I launched my first startup, Grocer.
Typical water cooler discussions in most multinational companies go like this. People getting together and saying, look, if this company can do it, and it's because of the people who work in this company, there's always somebody somewhere kicking off a discussion saying, let's do something together. But how many of them really have the courage to actually do what you've done is a different story altogether. So before I really am ready to put everything behind my idea, what typically do I need to do with the idea?
First, it starts from here. Because by that time, you need to have that level of conviction in your heart and your gut that says, you know what, this is worth enough for me to start exploring. Then there's enough material out there to go and say, okay, what are the basics that I need to do to validate it? The second was, who am I going to do this with, right? Having the right partners involved, having the right people involved to support in that start of the journey. And it's typically going to be friends and family. People that have that nice mix of encouragement, but also complementary to what you can then achieve together.
So 3 things you've said. One is have an idea that makes you want to jump up from your bed and go after it.
Yeah.
Then you've said talk to your, people that you believe can come along in that journey. Right?
Yeah.
3, validate it. Talk to people who you think can benefit from your idea. Talk to, explore, research
Yeah.
who else is doing it. Right? So
Yeah.
you have a certain level of validation for this idea that you have.
Yeah.
So at what point in time should someone, starting that journey think about raising capital?
Once you have, the MVP, or once you have a certain level of understanding on your product market fit, to say, okay, I have a good enough idea of how to go from 1 to 5. I'm at 1 now. I've started. I know I know enough of the challenges. I know enough that got me to 1. I have a product or a version 1 of the product. I know how to do that. I started operating the business. I started looking into all of these different aspects of the business. Now I know how much money I need for sales. Now I know how I need the money for marketing. Now I know now I need to go and prove it. I may need more, I may need less as things grow.
What were that steps that took you to finally making the exit from El Grocer? Was that your objective, like that you wanted to build a business and then exit
Yes.
the business?
Yes. The objective was to build a business and eventually exit it. We didn't know how long it will take. You always say, an average life of a startup is, 7 years or 8 years. Either it works or it doesn't. So you need to be ready for opportunities when they come up. So, in fact, that's a concept that I've been getting more and more familiar with by, reading Nassim Taleb's Anti-Fragility, or How to Be Anti-Fragile, saying, and again, in retrospect, as I was reading the book, it was funny because saying, you need to be like the fire that when the wind blows helps spread. Right? It shouldn't be that it should put you off. It should help you spread.
Right.
So how can you be ready for that? How can you be that fire so that when a wind comes, wind will come, that it's not the wind that's going to turn you off. It's the wind that's going to help you spread.
And, that same analogy, to get a fire going.
Yeah.
Right. You need to have the wood.
You
need to have the spark.
Yeah.
Right. And you need to fan the flame.
Yeah.
So in that, taking that analogy onto your own El Grocer journey, clearly, when the wind came, your fire was up there, right? So in business terms, I'm saying, at what point in time should a founder be saying, hey, I now need to dilute my equity?
Yeah.
Next question is, how much should I dilute?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And how do I value my company such that it is fair for both the investing partner?
Yes, there are averages and there are benchmarks. The averages and benchmarks tell you it needs to be worth for an investor, it needs to be worth for you. An average of 20% per round, and so on and so on. And then, of course, because it's a minority investor, they need to have some rights to protect them and all of that. And yes, all of this is well and true, right? The benchmarks or the guidelines or the averages are there for a reason. But then the averages are the sum of the different situations.
Sure.
You need to say, am I working towards in this direction? This is the path that I'm taking. And that's what I learned this by being on the founder seats.
Of course.
And making those mistakes, having some of not the right investors, whether they're individuals or not.
Right.
And then eventually getting the right, deal from an acquisition point of view. And if I'm not, then saying, okay, you know what? Okay, how can you refer me to someone who can do that?
Right. So when you're at this point in time looking for money to basically power your business further, what I'm hearing from you is it's very important that you sit down with your partners and start thinking about how much money do you want to raise? What do you want it for? And make sure that you do some prep work in terms of what your first proposal should be, so on and so forth, in order that you're not going into these meetings looking for something to come from the other side, but you go there well prepared with
Yeah.
the right reasons for why your company is worth what it is.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I'm hearing from what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
More likely to get the best deal if you go with that kind of mindset.
Absolutely.
And this would be this would be in a perfect world where you have a good ecosystem, in the region of knowing where to go and looking at what options you have.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that in terms of this region, which is
Yeah.
the Middle East.
Yeah. No, I mean, now compared to when we started El Grocer, the ecosystem has really transformed, at least on the technology side. There are angel groups, there are pre-seed investors, there are seed investors, there are sector-specific investors, there's accelerators, there's incubators, there's programs. It's a much more evolved and developed ecosystem.
Let's talk a little bit about, after you exited El Grocer
Yeah.
and you started to think what next.
Yeah.
How did you think what you're doing now, which is launch the Homegrown Ventures, was the
Yeah.
right thing to do for you?
It was, something that also came about without initially having planned to do so. And, some of the advice that I got was like, reflect back on your journey. I had been doing that, but not with a clear mind, right? It was more about what next. But first, I was like, okay, what did I learn from what I have done so that I can determine what next and what I want to do, how I want to do it. I think equally important.
So, what did you learn from what you have done?
A lot of things. We'll need a separate podcast just for that.
Let's start with a few.
We'll start with a few. We'll start with a few. I think going back to what we started with, if you believe in something, you jump in and you do it.
Sure.
The other thing was, which was an important revelation to me as I was reflecting, was when I started the business, it was with I want to start a business. It wasn't necessarily a purpose behind the business. But upon reflecting, at least for me, it was I want to do a business in one shape or form, but that gives me a purpose and a meaning beyond just being a business. That I feel I'm contributing to things that matter to me, are meaningful to me. And then I start saying, what are the things that matter to me and are meaningful to me? Add on top of that, what are the things I'm good at? We all see this ikigai kind of circle. What am I good at? What does the world need? So I started thinking like that.
Right. Understood. So let's start with the purpose.
Yes.
What is your true purpose?
I think when I was reflecting back, for me, a couple of things that were important was, I think, mix of purpose as well as what I believe I can contribute to that. And what are the parts I think can be done better? It's like, okay, the food that we consume, the products that we use today are lacking substance and purpose. What we are consuming today are brands and products of the last 100 years. And those brands and products, because they have been institutionalized, because they have become this big brands, pie in the sky, have lost touch with those consumers. That me, even as a consumer, I'm not as satisfied with. Because some of them I may consume because that's what's available. But if I have the option, I would like to consume healthier products, more sustainable products. Okay, this is an area I can make an impact in, right? How to support products, brands with a purpose to make individuals, society, planet be better. The second part was I was a first-time founder and I went through a lot of challenges. Saying, okay, how can I share and give back? How can I be there? How can I be the investor Not just a partner and investor that I wish I had.
So that's it. Okay, understand. So then you put together this venture. Let's talk about the venture.
Yeah. So we embarked on that, not having a venture in mind, right? It was more of, we see this as a purpose. We see there is an opportunity in doing this. And that's, as I was exploring this, I had, reconnected maybe is not the right word, because have always been in touch with my partner, Ahmed. Ahmed Shami is my partner in Homegrown Ventures. He was an angel investor in El Grocer. We've known each other for over 20 years. We were management trainees at Kraft Foods 20 years ago.
Sure.
We were always talking about, different business professional. We had the right chemistry. And he was leaving his corporate career. Saying, okay, how about if we do this together? It's not easy, but it's doable. There are a few success stories regionally. There are many success stories globally. And then we said, okay, maybe other parts of the world have also gone through this.
Sure.
So we started reaching out to investors, accelerators, startups, brands, not just in the region, mainly in the region, but globally. As we went along that, we discovered that there is nobody focusing on this as a sector from an investment and ecosystem building point of view. And it reminded me a lot of the early days of El Grocer and early days when I started getting involved in advisory and support and angel investment in the tech world.
Sure.
It's like, wow, this is where we were in the tech world 10, 15 years ago. This is where we are now. And in FMCG, product-based consumer goods brands, we are not just there, we're like few levels below there even.
Wow.
In the region. And that's where I think a third element came in, was that Middle East is lagging. Consumers are ready for it. When you talk to consumers, when you see market trends, you see younger consumers are looking for homegrown brands.
Right.
Whether it's in F&B, whether it's FMCG, whether it's apparel, whatever sectors you look at, consumers want local brands, homegrown brands.
And it's interesting that now you're making also the most difficult thing available, which is capital.
Yeah.
Because there's always a smart young person somewhere in this region with a great idea. But then I guess they would be encouraged to know that on the other side, there is a fund that is also specializing and looking to find the startup, that's investing in products that is good for consumers, good for humanity, and at the same time can benefit from the guidance that you can provide them with the experiences that you have. So it seems like a fantastic combination.
This is the theory. This is the theory. Yes. I always say, it's once you have the theory, it's about action. Thankfully, so we've been doing this now for the last year and a half or so. And you adapt and you adjust and you learn, right? When we started this, capital, to your point, was important. But when we spoke to founders saying, okay, assume I'm here. What do you need? Okay, capital was one, but partnering with the right person was another. And that's when, again, I reflect back on my journey at El Grocer. And it was about having people who can support in that journey, a bit more hands-on than your typical investor. And FMCG as a sector demands a lot more there. So what we said is then part of what we do is we work with founders as an extended team in one shape or form on strategic projects to help them even better so avoid those mistakes, accelerate certain things, learn together, saying, listen, we don't have all the answers. We know a little bit more in some areas where we can then come and help in that journey. And we are building an ecosystem around us and around this whole segment or sector. So it's not just about us. It is about how can we, you mentioned an interesting word we always use, how can we create that spark in this ecosystem? We started partnering with people around us. hey, who's out there that we can work with across the value chain? What do startups need? They need support on distribution. They need support on retail channel partnerships. They need support on, working capital. They need support on marketing. They need and then within all of this, they need support on research. Da, 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 da. How can we bring this ecosystem together? Yes, for companies we partner with, but also the wider ecosystem. Because hey, end of the day, we cannot partner with everyone for one reason or the other. So we've been creating those partnerships and trying to build the ecosystem. We partnered with the Pitch Lounge, Jamal, Sasha, marketing strategizer, doing networking events, bringing founders, ecosystem enablers together, online pitchathons, pitch competitions, giving people feedback in a friendly way. Partnered with Talabat on UAE online, saying, okay, let's go and support homegrown brands, give them better access, give them some support. Partnered with Zid in Saudi lately to be able to give direct to consumer capabilities to brands that want to get into Saudi. Partnered with food people to bring talent and what does it take to succeed in FMCG in a startup world. Partnered with Sixth Factor. So I'm just mentioning some of our partners. So
Sure.
it's really about bringing in the right partners in one shape or form.
If there is a startup, founder who's looking to connect with you,
Yeah.
what must he do? How should he go about connecting with you? And what are the, few things that you want him to know such that,
Yeah.
you can then take that conversation forward?
Yeah. So many different ways, very easy to connect with us. I always encourage trying to find a warm introduction. So if you know somebody, if you don't know us directly, you don't meet us at an meeting at an event. We're pretty active, like I said, either co-hosting events or participating in events. Meet us there, tell us what you're doing, who you are, what you're looking for, and we can guide. Yes, let's have a discussion, or no, I can guide you to the right person, better person. Going through our website shows what we look for and what we specify.
Sure.
And you can then submit. But nothing beats a warm intro. If you don't know us or you haven't known us from the community and you would like to reach out, yes, reaching out, LinkedIn, website, all of this works, and we are as responsive as we can be.
Sure.
But if you know Tom and go through Tom will recommend. And then there is at least that level of affiliation.
Sure.
Okay, this person's coming through Tom. We know Tom. We trust his judgment.
Sure.
We know he's going to refer something that they believe is a fit.
Sure.
So that definitely helps.
Sure.
And like I said, everything else around it, whether it's digitally or physically.
I think this has been a very interesting conversation, Nader. Thank you for taking the time. I'm sure it'd be hectic and busy for you, but I'm
Not at all,
really
pleasure.
honored to have you, in the studio with me and talk about your journey. If I may, summarize what I'm hearing from you, essentially, you're coming from a point of view of saying, hey, your life doesn't need to end in corporate, right? There's a life beyond just being employed and working somewhere. If you
Yeah.
have a great idea, then, don't take too long.
Absolutely.
Validate it, of course, but then be prepared to stake, the rest of your career on it by jumping straight on.
Yeah.
That was one of the first lessons that you shared.
Yeah.
And then you said, hey, once you get out there and, it's working, then look for the right sort of partner that can come and complete journey. Such as it could be capital, it could be, some guidance, it could be joining you to accelerate your journey, but finding the right partner could also help to move you along.
Maybe, sorry, I'll interrupt you.
Yes.
Alone you go fast, together you go far.
There you go. I think, and to find the right people to go along with you
Absolutely.
is the other additional, comment to that. And then, it was interesting that you then went on to talk a little bit about purpose, right? I never really thought about it that way, or I don't know how many people, say I want to start a business and then look for a purpose, whether it's going to do good or is better for consumers, is good for consumers. What is it? What is it that you're trying to do, right? And that's an interesting, I think, new conversation you're bringing to the region. And of course, it has to make economic sense. There has to be numbers behind it, and that's I think kind of where you're coming from in saying that purpose is important, but more importantly, also ask yourself what you're really, really good at. I mean, you're really, really good at, bringing that purpose, monetizing that purpose, and bringing some value to to all the stakeholders, right? Not just you. And then, of course, it was also interesting to see that you are standing out as a unique venture that's offering money, against that purpose. With that, Nader, I think we've had a really interesting conversation. Thank you for coming to the studio. And we look forward to keeping this conversation going from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom, for having me. It's been a pleasure.